A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We've reached another weekend, and up until now, since the beginning of this cold spell, our predominant airflow has been Arctic maritime, and of course, that has been, on the whole, generally speaking, allowing frequent snow showers across northern portions of the British Isles, less so further south. That being said, however, we've had a couple of systems that has been dropping down the Irish Sea. That's been enhancing some snow across parts of Wales, parts of England, including the southwest, the Midlands, and whatnot. We also had, of course, a developing feature that slipped through the Dover Straits and brought a very significant snowfall to London and the southeast of England. I do know that Gavin Partridge, who recently came back from a trip to New York, was describing the snow cover. It reached up as far as Bedfordshire, or Bedford anyway, before it was bare ground once again, which was quite interesting. We've seen the temperatures respond with that snow cover in the southeast, and we've now seen a snow event across the central belt of Scotland. My dad took a photograph this morning from the living room window in Kirkintilloch of a pretty scene of a blanket of white. So we are seeing areas that haven't seen snow up until now receive snow, and that threat continues for the next couple of days. But what is going to happen is we are going to start to see the tropical maritime air mass coming in. We've actually got a system with wraparound tropical moisture and heat associated with it that is going to come north over the course of Saturday and particularly Sunday, and basically wipe out the cold air mass that is in place at the moment. Um, but it will be a bumpy road. As milder air comes into the cold air, we've got complicated factors, including rain, sleet, snow, rainfall and frozen surfaces. We get freezing rain. There's going to be a significant threat of ice, I think, during the course of Saturday, and indeed more so Sunday. Temperatures may start off the day on Sunday morning, by the way, close to freezing. By the time we reach midnight Sunday and the Monday, temperatures probably quite widely in double figures as the milder, basically sucks out all the cold air, and the lowest, 5,000 feet of the atmosphere is above freezing. And we are going to see, of course, shrinkage of the snow cover across many areas of the country as well. Still some uncertainties regarding as that moisture hits the cold air, where sees the rain, where sees the snow, and of course how quickly the warmth can sink from the mid levels of the atmosphere right down to the surface. So it's always a tricky call when it comes to these warm surges following prolonged spells of cold, but it has been an impressive period of cold, that's for sure. Let's have a quick look at some of the recent tweets that I've put out here. This actually was the temperature during the just after midday today. Temperatures surprisingly cold, actually. We had, of course, the band of precipitation and cloud cover running through the central belt during the course of this morning. We've seen significant snow and disruption to areas such as Glasgow Airport, for example. Flights either diverted or cancelled here, and the temperatures have been 3-4 Celsius in response to that moisture and cloud cover running in. But we were in some pretty cold air across the north of Scotland. Temperatures at midday of minus 11.4 at Altnahara, minus 9.4 at Loch Skarnock, and indeed overnight temperatures dropped to some pretty low levels actually. This was Europe looking this morning, some very cold air across northern Europe, milder conditions across the south, and you can see here the temperatures over the British Isles to start the day. Actually, interesting enough, as the morning progressed, Altnahara dropped colder because Meteoseal had the low as minus 10.1, but that was around dawn this morning, and yet the temperature dropped down to minus 11.4 by midday. So it was quite an interesting cooling, even though the sun was up. Minus 13.5 at Loch Skarnock. That was the coldest temperature of the year so far here. another -10 at Aviemore, and even before the moisture in the cloud ran into the central belt, we've seen temperatures as low as -5 to -7, another -8 at Dromalbin, -11.2 at Estelmuir, and as we went south, another bitterly cold day for the Midlands. Temperatures below freezing all day long, but it dropped to -9.7 at Pershore with a -9.6 at Shobden. Another double digits below freezing at Sennybridge, -11.5 at Benson in Oxfordshire as well. So I do believe that it's just frost covered ground in this region. I think there's only been a trace of snow at that station at Benson. Of course, it's a low lying area prone to some very cold temperatures compared to the surrounding countryside. So yeah, it was a brutally cold start of the morning all the way down to the south central portion of England. So UK wide, once again, temperatures have been very low indeed. And this was the maximum temperatures during the course of yesterday. I am in the process of writing an article about the cold because it has been by far a noteworthy cold spell. Do I think it's as bad as 2010? I don't believe it is. I think 2010 was in a league of its own. But certainly the persistency in at or below freezing days, temperatures below -10 at night time have been quite impressive, quite noteworthy. But there is change coming, and we are going to see more Atlantic influence. I believe that a lot of that is contributed to the shifting of the Mann-Julian Oscillation, the deliverer of the cold spell initially as it rotated from 7, 8 into 1. And of course, as that enhanced moisture, or enhanced convection, should I say, over the western and central portion of the Pacific, that led to more blocking across the far north. As it rotates in through the Indian Ocean and into the continental maritime region, we are seeing less conducive conditions for the cold. And I think as the cold shifts eastwards over North America, that's enhancing the jet stream. But it's not clear cut because the problem that we have is that there is still a lot of blocking over the top of the pole. There is a lot of cold air that is in the middle altitude pattern. So even if we do start to see that jet stream, that displaced southerly jet crossing the Atlantic, and over the next 48 to 72 hours, we're going to see a significant push of mild conditions from the subtropics up into the British Isles. That's going to sweep right across the UK. It's going to raise the cold, but even with a more Atlantic mobile pattern, that is what I expect more and more. I'm leaning more and more towards an unsettled theme into the Christmas week. The problem is that we've got a lot of cold air to tap into, and even with more Atlantic low pressure dominance, these areas of low pressure can pull either cold from the north, they could have cold coming in behind them, wrapping around these circulations, these features, and moving across the UK. Nothing is simple when it comes to next week, but I do strongly believe that the Atlantic is becoming more dominant once again, and it's all to do with the Mann-Julian Oscillation shifting the blocking areas of high pressure around. And as you can see here, we've got almost a crossroads of air masses coming together to the west of the British Isles here. So I know it may be a little bit hard to see, but you've got a jet stream crossing the far north of North America and across southern Greenland here. So we are seeing cold air coming around the top of this area of jet stream winds sinking south. But all the while, we've got this feature right here over the central portion of the Atlantic. Now, as we play through this loop, you can see here the coming together in three different directions, the air masses. We've got an air mass coming up from the south, from Spain, from Africa. We've got an air mass coming down over the top of Greenland towards this region, and we've got an area of low pressure over the North Atlantic. And of course, we've got air coming underneath that, some very mild conditions to the south of this feature here over the Atlantic. What eventually happens is that feature forces the jet stream to strengthen here on the underside, on the southeast quadrant of that low. that's going to then force the milder northwards towards the British Isles, pushing this jet here northwards. And eventually what you're going to have is we're going to have a flood of subtropical air sweeping across the British Isles. But all the while, we've still got an area of high pressure over Greenland. We've got a jet stream rounding the top of that high, forcing cold air south, even though we've got mild air coming up from the southwest. So it is a very complicated step to milder conditions, but this kind of complexity to the pattern means that it's hard to pinpoint what happens after this air mass of moisture and mild conditions sweeps across the British Isles. My suspected thinking would be that that cold air mass coming out of the top of Greenland, sinking south, then as that area of low pressure exits to the east, it opens the door to this cold air coming in on the backside. And if you notice here, this is off the GFS. We're gonna, if I've got time, we're gonna look at the GFS and the ECMWF here. So of course, this is the system that produced all the snow across the central belt. Then we've seen milder conditions wrapping in on the backside, so snow changed over to rain, and a milder night to come for sure. As we progress through the course of this evening, we're starting to see winds coming in from a southwesterly direction a little bit more prominent. So we're starting to see the coldest air getting kind of displaced out of the way, and it's setting the scene for this area of low pressure over the Atlantic to move in. As we continue to play through the sequence here, we're in a kind of showery, blustery west to southwesterly regime during the course of Saturday. And then as we move into Sunday, there's the shield of moisture moving in from the west. The question is, where does the snow fall versus where does it rain? I think we're going to have a mixture of rain at low levels. We're going to have a sleety, rainy mix, even at mid-levels, snow over high ground of England and Wales. Again, unknown as to how much cold air is in place over even southern and central Scotland, then over the Highlands as that moisture then lifts northwards. Eventually, it's mixing out that cold air, and by the time we reach the end of Sunday, I think we're going to have a much milder feeling air mass. A lot of melt, a lot of ice, residual ice underneath puddles of water, so you need to be careful with that. Very dangerous situation indeed. But according to the GFS, this latest run, the area of low pressure stays to the west of the UK, meaning we're in that southwesterly wind all the way through Tuesday. Eventually, that area of low pressure may get a kick out of the way. The reason why it's not shifting is we've got an area of high pressure over the continent, so it's stopping the eastward progress of that low. And then eventually what happens is that area of low pressure moves east. Remember the cold air coming down out of the far north. It's once that area of low pressure moves out of the way that it opens the door to the colder air coming in. And then we've got more systems coming in off that southwesterly jet stream. But again, colder in place means that we still have that rain, sleet, snow mixed threat. It's not just a case of the cold's out of the way altogether, but the Atlantic will become a more dominant player. Look at Christmas Eve. That certainly would be a significant snow event. Southern Scotland, north of England, possible into the central belt. Again, the models are going to come back and forth. It has difficulty, determining where these areas of low pressure are, etc., etc. Let's have a look at the ECMWF. And I know I've not shown snow charts in recent times, and the reason why is I'm just simply running out of time trying to explain to you what's going on. But this is back to the current period. We're in the legacy of shower activity in that west to southwesterly wind. Then here's the shield of moisture coming in. We see the snow on this leading edge bumping into the milder air. But notice it has very little in the way of snowfall overall. It's really only the central belt of Scotland and southern Highlands that the snow falls. Then eventually it turns to rain because the milder gets... And with the squeeze in the isobars indicating that we've got stronger winds, it means to say that we're transporting that milder air quicker over the British Isles here. I will endeavour to try and do another video showing you the snow charts here because I think that's quite important. But notice here, even the ECMWF has a longer period of time with that low is to the west, meaning that we're in the warm southwesterly winds. Then eventually that system moves east and we open the door to colder air coming in from the north. I think we've got a good threat, by the way, of seeing snow in the Christmas period. So we'll wait and see what happens. Thanks for watching. See you again tomorrow with more.